Hey everyone, it's Arlen Bento Jr. and welcome to the Shoot Par Now Golf Show. My main man, co-host James Stammer.
Hey everybody, hey Arlen.
Welcome to another week of Shoot Par Now Golf Show. If you've been following us online, please make sure to subscribe. And please go ahead and leave a comment because comments really help as well as likes. Likes are free. Just click like, helps out the channel a bunch. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor. This is the One Club Trainer. If you're looking for a great way to work on getting more speed in your swing, this really, really works well. It has this canister. When you swing it, the canister moves, and it kind of tells you where you're creating all your speed, and it makes a nice clicking sound. A lot of tour players use it, and it comes with different these bands, right? The resistance bands. You can change them, and it can make it like harder or make it less. So if you don't swing really fast, you can take a few out, but it works really well. One Club Trainer. Thanks a lot. So speaking of trainers, Valspar finished this week over in the Tampa area. Good tournament. Weather was decent.
Scores were not low.
Right.
It was a tough golf course for them.
And it was windy this weekend too, so they had some of that. So Viktor Hovland won.
Yeah.
And he made, I think it was two birdies or three birdies down the stretch to kind of pass. And
yeah, he birdied, 16 and 17, which is tough to do.
Right.
I mean, 16 is a brutal par 4.
Right.
17 is a long par 3.
Right.
He bogeyed 18, but by the time he got the 18th tee,
Justin Thomas,
who was chasing him, had bogeyed 18.
Yeah.
So that gave him a 2-shot lead instead of a 1-shot lead. So he had a little bit of cushion on the tee.
It's always nice to be able to bogey the last hole and still win a PGA Tour event. Yeah.
Yep.
So I didn't get a chance to watch too much of the golf this week, but I did see some of the highlights and stuff. But again, that's going to be the end of the Florida swing.
That's the end of our swing. Yeah.
And I think they go to Texas, right, normally?
Yep. They're Texas and then
get ready for the Masters or pretty close to it.
Ready for the Masters.
And that's always when we get excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it when they come to Florida. Don't get me wrong. I like watching golf, but there's just something about the Masters that's coming up. It's going to be really good. Speaking about Masters, well, I want to talk a little bit, not Masters story, but idea was, tell me a little bit about what you were talking about Rory McIlroy and the driver thing. I didn't hear that till you mentioned it.
Rory McIlroy needed an emergency.
This was
2 weeks ago.
Right.
At the Players. Rory wanted to get his he had left his backup driver at home,
which was last year's model.
Yeah. So when the weekend came, he wanted that driver. Wasn't feeling comfortable with the new one. I didn't have it dialed in yet. So he hired an Uber driver to go all the way to his house on Jupiter and then come back with his driver to Jacksonville.
Makes sense.
$995 Uber fare.
Yep.
For the club, I guess it would be. I guess
and
the club got the driver.
And a good tip.
And a $300 or $400 tip they threw on top of it. So
pretty good investment for a win, right?
So pretty good investment, I would think.
And those guys, right? Like we were talking earlier. Isn't there somebody down here that could run it up to them? But it would be like such an inconvenience. Like, hey, Jimmy, run down to my house and go in my garage or go in my office, and they'll let you in and find this driver. And then could you run it up to me 4 hours away or whatever it is?
I'd do it for you.
You probably would.
I would do it.
Yeah, I'd probably tell you to call an Uber driver. No, I'm teasing. But that's kind of an interesting story that, how else he's going to get it there. Speaking of Uber.
Because it's not like the tour van is still there.
Right.
And they leave on Wednesday after the Pro-Am.
Well, they probably wouldn't even have that head.
Yeah.
Because they would have.
Everything's got to be. Yeah, they've got all the.
And if he really likes the feel of that driver, that comfort, right? We get it. The company, it's like McIlroy is a marquee, top of the totem pole endorsement guy, right? Who he is, but they don't want him to play last year's stuff. They want you to play. That's kind of part of the contract, right? But a lot of players struggle with that. You hear stories of guys, not sneaking, but just putting old fairways or. There was somebody that was playing.
They'll put the new head cover on the old driver.
Correct.
In the bag.
Somebody was, I forget, it was like the TaylorMade V Steel fairway wood that somebody had in the bag forever and just wouldn't give it up, and it became like a contractual issue thing and blah blah blah. But that's a pretty cute story that he would have to call an Uber guy. I wouldn't be surprised if the Uber guy. Do you know if it was an Uber guy he knew, like somebody he uses?
That I don't know.
Because I have a little interesting add to this.
Yeah, it had to be somebody you trust.
Right. So
or maybe you ask some guys there, hey, who's a pretty cool Uber driver that's driven you guys around town here?
I had a player when I was coaching, and again, private school family, and he was using Uber to go to and from school and practice because the family lived in New York, and it was actually cheaper and safer for him to get Uber than to pay for a car and insurance and gas. When they did the math, it was actually cheaper for them to and so he was telling me, I remember the kid was telling me that, oh yeah, I use my Uber guy, his name is whatever. He goes, you have the same guy? He goes, yeah, every day. Like the same guy knows it's part of his route. He picks him up, drops him off, brings him to golf, whatever, right? And then I remember we had qualified for the state or regional or something that year. And I remember asking him who's he coming with, and his parents weren't in town, or they go in and out, and whatever his deal was, who's ever helping him in his house, whatever. But he said, oh, I'll just Uber. And the Uber had to be a couple $100. So we had to go to Orlando or somewhere up in somewhere north of us. And I was thinking, wow, and no one could take him. And I was going the other way. But anyway, long story, but I always thought that was interesting. So people do use Uber for a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I guess you have a lot of money, it's easier.
That could be a whole new thing. You got Uber Eats, you got Uber, now you could have Uber,
pick up your golf club service.
Like Ship Sticks and Uber kind of combined.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting merger, right? As far as like golf in our area, things are going to start winding down. We're getting towards the end of March. What happens here is usually end of March, a lot of what I call seasonal snowbirds will start to leave, especially those that rent houses here that don't, own homes. And then you'll start to see the Canadians will start to flock back to Canada. And then there'll be another, usually around tax time and a lot of
time Easter. That seems
people just want to get back to the Northeast because we have a ton of Northeast people on our East Coast here, and they'll want to get back for Easter and family. So we're getting ready to go into what I consider, for us anyway, the best part of the year, from like middle April to May, early June, and sometimes even to mid-June. It's so nice here. We haven't had rain in a while. It's been really dry. The golf course is dry. We're just talking about where my academy is, and we have a private practice here, and the grass is kind of like brownish. It's almost like you're hitting balls, and it's grass. It's grass. It's not dead.
It's not Augusta National grass.
I would just send a text this morning to the superintendent. I said, hey, I just wanted you to know, I didn't know, where the sprinklers working, or, he's like, hey, we're watering that thing every night. It's windy and it's dry, and we just can't get it to grow. Yeah. So, now I think tomorrow or the next couple of days, we have a couple little fronts. I notice our temperatures are going up. We're going to get out of our cool days here are like 75 and like 55 in the morning, and everybody's got a jacket on. Yeah. I like that weather.
Oh, I like it. It's spring training weather. I love that kind of weather.
But I tell you what, I like 82, 84. That's kind of like my magic. It's like 68 at night, low 80s during the day, get a little rain so the golf course but our golf courses are just awesome in May. Like people don't know because they leave, right? But May, the grass will just start. It's almost like spring. It's like spring up north, right? Mm-hmm. You know how people say, "Oh, the golf course April is not great in a cold climate, right?"
Still get snow in April,
right? But May is always mushy, right? The ground's mushy. Yeah. It's coming out of frost and whatever. And then, but it's just like you turn around like a week later, it's green everywhere. Yeah. So for us, we don't get that effect, right? Because of Florida and where we are in the tropics and everything. But we do get like this burst of grass, and everything just starts to green up. And right now courses are rolling like freaking crazy, and you can barely take a divot. You get on the side of a green, it's like I don't know what to do there. I mean, you almost have to putt and chip everywhere because there's no grass under the ball. But I'm really looking forward to taking a little break.
All the rates go down. It becomes a lot less expensive
to
play.
Yeah. And so we see more locals come out. But the people that are smart, I mean, no offense if you're leaving, sorry, you had to leave, you got to leave. But the people that are smart, they time it so they're here in April, May, because that's when you want everything slows down, rates drop a little bit. It's not going to drop like summer. We go like from highs in the winter, like January, February, March, or most of our golf courses are all close to $100, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, boom, it drops down, and it'll be like, those places will be like 40 to 50 at the most in May. And summertime, it'll be down in the 30s.
Yeah.
So, again, it's hot. If you play early, it's okay. You play late, sometimes it's okay. But
problem playing early is it's not as hot, but there's no breeze yet.
correct.
The breeze doesn't pick up
Until about 10 o'clock.
until around 10 or so.
And then it starts getting really
morning.
hot, though.
But then it's the hottest part of the day.
Well, I think hottest part of the day is still like 3 o'clock. You'll get that. You'll wake up in the morning. Even in summer, it'll be 80s, 79, 80. It'll stay there, low 80s till about mid-morning, and then it'll jump, right? We get into the 90s and whatever. But that afternoon heat, when that sun's at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whew, we can get some serious heat.
Yeah.
We get lucky sometimes, though.
You burn your head.
You can burn. If you don't have a lot of hair on your head, you're going to be in trouble. That's why you got to wear a hat. Anything else going on with you, golf-wise or story-wise?
Not yet. Not really. Just
Kind of slow.
Yeah. Been kind of slow.
Haven't written any articles about anything interesting in your magazines
we talked about the TGL event that I went to.
Right.
In fact, tonight is the first night of the finals.
You're right. Tonight's the final.
Atlanta's playing New York. It's a best of 3, so they're playing the first match is tonight at 9. Tomorrow is match 2 at 7, and if necessary at 3. At 9.
So they're going up against March Madness too.
Yeah.
So it's just tough because basketball's big right now. Everybody's there's a lot of cool games going on with that. So that'll be interesting. So that'll end that final season, and again, right to the middle of when everything's going to get busy up north, right? So we I know we live in the south, so we actually look at the northern market as when it turns on. It's the Masters that really starts golf. We start to see a lot more things happening in the golf industry. A lot of the people that I know, sponsor companies or manufacturing companies like CopperTech that we work with, all the businesses start to pump when people up north start to play, because there's just so many people that don't get to play golf because of the winter, right?
Yeah.
And then people in colder climates, they play a lot of golf in a really short window.
Oh, yeah, they got a small window.
Yeah.
And then do you know why the Masters is in April? You know why Bobby Jones chose that time?
No, I don't know.
Because spring training baseball. All the journalists and everybody else for sports were all down in Florida for spring training.
Yeah.
And when spring training ended, as they all start wandering north,
he says
this will be easy. They're going to drive right by us on their way back.
So it gave them something to do.
If we have this right about the end of spring training or right after spring training ends, we get a lot more coverage than we would depending on the guys that come back down here from Ohio or Pennsylvania or New York.
Yeah, because they're not gonna come down to cover it.
Yeah.
But on the way back, if they give it, I'm sure they took care of the media back then really well, right? Food and maybe golf. I don't know what else they did for them, but it's probably a good chance to.
They don't exactly let all the media play golf.
Yeah.
But
back in the day, they might have.
If you've got, maybe back in the day, but if you have a media badge,
you
can throw it in a hat. And I think it's usually Tuesday or Wednesday, they pull a certain number of badges out of the hat.
And they let you play golf with?
And if yours is one of the ones they picked, you can play Monday after the Masters.
Wow.
And once you've been picked, you can't put it back in there ever again. But it's a way for you to have a chance to play. I've never covered it, so I've never had that chance. But I do know a friend of mine that got in and got to play.
No kidding.
And
just him though.
Yeah. Well, he was one of many.
They
won the select or so media that got pulled. And I asked him what it was like, and he says, they talk about how fast the greens are. He says, to give you an idea, he says a downhill putt is like standing on the roof of your car, trying to hit a ball off the roof, down the windshield, and stop it on the hood before it goes off the front.
That's a pretty good analogy.
He says that's how fast they are.
So as you and I get going into the Masters event, right? Mm-hmm. And I had mentioned before we started that there's some of the people that follow and are watching, they want to hear more stories. Mm-hmm. And I have a bunch of students that are watching, and a couple of them, one guy in particular, but a couple has mentioned, hey, you should tell more of your golf stories because people say that's interesting, right?
It is.
And I do want to talk later. I mean, not this particular episode, but I've got great stories of how I got here and who helped me, and getting to know Sam Snead, pretty well, and getting to hang around Gary Player. Used to come to our practices, and I got a chance to spend quite a bit of time with Arnold Palmer and did a bunch of events and did a project with the gentleman that actually owns the Valspar. He actually runs that, and I got to go inside the ropes and see a lot of things that they do. So there's some cool stuff with that. But I gotta mention the coolest thing that has ever happened to me was getting to go to the Masters. And I'm going to tell this story, and we'll talk a little bit about it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember it, but because I don't know if you covered it or what we were doing, but maybe I don't know what we were doing back then. But the newspaper gave us a lot of coverage. But what happened was the gentleman so a lot of the PGA Tour events are like owned by a company. Mm-hmm. So the tour doesn't run them. They run the purse and that stuff, but a company will run, you know, the pro-ams and the food and the tents and all that stuff's a big business, right? And so I was very fortunate to coach a young man whose father kind of did this stuff. So he made us a little wager. He said, you know, it was his boy's senior year, and he said, if we have a really good year and win this and win this and win this, the prize is I'm going to take the team to the Masters. That was the prize, right?
There's some incentive.
Yeah. And so and we had a great year. We finished 5th in the state, I think. We won the district, won a regional, or finished 2nd. I forget what it was, but we did great. And so season ended, and our team trip was to go to the Masters. And I think this was 14. I think it was a 14. I forget who won. But anyway, what an experience. And we'll talk more about it. But basically, what happened was they had all arrangements done, and we get a text that says, okay, you got to be, now we live in Stewart, right? And there's a jetway here, a lot of private jets in our area because of where we're located. And it's like, hey, you got to be at the jetway at like whatever it was, 12 o'clock or something. I think it was Thursday because we went up. We didn't catch the first day. And the coolest part was driving to the jetway, parking your car. Actually, I got dropped off. But getting dropped off, I walk in the jetway, and of course, they're just really nice. And, you know, what can we do for you? And I'm told what we're doing. I was like, have a seat. And my team showed up, and within 10 minutes, we were airborne. And we ended up going on actually one of Arnold Palmer's private jets, not the one he flies, but one of his. And we got to go, and it was 6 of us, and Claude Harmon came, and we had a nice little trip. And we flew up, pick us up at the airport, you know, take us to the beautiful place to stay. We all had our own rooms, and we got to see the Masters. Got tickets to go see Berkman's, where they have the replica of all the holes.
Okay, yeah.
So the idea of like putting on the car, like to the hood,
yeah.
I actually got to go do that. And they built these 3 holes, and there's all the caddies that normally work at the course are now at the thing.
Okay.
And so you actually have to sign up, and there's a caddy master, and there's a room full of all the putters you could ever imagine, you know, like all the different brands, you know.
Oh, wow.
And you pick your putter, and you get a little putting tip, and then the caddy takes you on the holes, and he walks you through the historic putts.
Oh, wow.
So like the one that Mickelson won with or Nicholas won with, and they try to let you, like, they show you.
Reenact it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And like you said, it's kind of weird. Like, they are fast, but if you, like, I forget which hole it was. I don't know which one it was, but I think it was Mickelson's win putt. But if you rolled the ball 3 feet by the hole, it would have been in the water. Like, it's like, it's like, I'm talking like off the green, right? And you kind of look at the putt, and you look at it, and it doesn't look terrible, but man, you hit that one ridge, it's gone. So the caddy was trying to stress, like, you know, yes, he's trying to win the Masters,
but he's also trying not to go from 1st to 5th.
Yeah, he could lose the Masters. Like, if he rolls it 3 feet, he's going to lose the Masters.
Yeah.
So when you watch it, when you think about like what your friend said, like, you know, having to control the ball, but he makes the putt.
Yeah.
He doesn't like miss it. He makes it. So that's why he was saying, like, people don't realize, like even that. Remember the chip that Tiger hit? Like, I forget which one.
16.
Yeah, where it just kind of like trickles and the Nike logos rolling.
Yeah.
Like it
Today they would have went, oh, it was all AI.
Yeah, no, but that was like real. Yeah, but that was so like iconic that in the shot. But that shot, like, we tried to putt it, you can't make it. you can't make that putt. There's no speed that works, right?
It works.
Oh, it's terrible. But again, that's what makes the Masters so interesting, right? Because there's always like that little nuance. The golf course, you know, is wide open. There's no rough. There's no rough.
There's
Well, I mean, yeah, but not enough like open where you lose.
None. Now
Yeah.
there's like a little, like a
The
half
less-
an inch more of grass.
But when we were
Along the
there
fairway.
was, I don't think
Yeah.
I would call it rough. I mean,
No.
maybe they cut it a little higher, but
Yeah.
it's pretty wide open. It's just, man, hitting that ball into those little spots, and you gotta like have it come in high or low. You can't get to a green if you can't hit a fade. You gotta work it. That's why it's so fascinating when you watch the Masters. And I love how the telecast, don't you just love the telecast? It's just so like unique, and it's not a lot of sponsors, right? It's still the top 2 or 3 guys they work with. Do you have a master story or thing that you kind of recollect, that you have a thing that you think about?
Well, I grew up in Georgia.
Right.
So my dad used to skip me out of school on Tuesdays, and we'd go to Augusta for the practice round. You'd park. You don't even have to do a lottery like you do now.
You just go.
You just got there. You drove in. They told you where to park. You parked the car. You walked up. $5.
No kidding.
And you walk in.
So what year would have this been?
This is in early to mid 70s. So we're talking 72, 73,
Early
74.
Okay. So no par 3 holes. Everything was probably still spread out.
And we
it wasn't the big, like, the corporate. It's really corporate around there now. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
In fact, you went over to the driving range, and it was the old driving range. The new driving range is on the opposite side of the clubhouse.
Correct.
The original one was on the south side of the clubhouse.
Oh.
And they wouldn't go pick your balls up for you. You walked in with a bag of balls. You dumped them on the ground, and you handed the bag to your caddy, and you sent him out.
The caddy shagged him.
And your caddy walked out there. And here I am. I'm like 8, 9 years old, and I'm watching Jack Nicklaus tell his caddy, a little for a little hope. And he'd hit like 4 or 5 balls, and the caddy'd move maybe a couple of feet.
Oh, that's a great story, yeah.
Then he'd bring him back and dump him on the ground.
Yep.
And Jack would send him, 30 yards further back. And it was the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, here you're watching this guy going, wow, he hit something exactly where he needs to. The right distance, the right direction, and everything almost every time.
I love those stories, right? Because I know that's how they used to practice and stuff. But what if you had multiple guys trying to practice? What did they do? The caddies just go out there? Because it's, watching your ball, but they got to watch their player's ball and be aware of the other ball?
Yeah, you'd have 10, 12 caddies out there.
Taking shots.
Wow.
No
hard hats. No,
it's like no seat belts.
Can you imagine Ocean nowadays?
Yeah, no seat belts.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Everybody's smoking in the clubhouse. So I heard Ben Hogan stories, right, of practicing with towels. Mm-hmm. They'd have like club towels, and they'd lay them out, and they'd walk out the number, and say it was 100 yards or 150, whatever, and they would stand at the towel, and they said Hogan was good enough to hit balls on the towels.
And land them on the towel. Yeah.
And the caddy would tell Hogan, like, 2, 1, like he'd tell Hogan how many feet he was away.
Yeah.
They said that's how they practice. And remember, they were hitting. I mean, I've got a set in my bag right on the corner. Actually, it's where did that bag go? Oh, I gotta grab it. I gotta show you. This is so awesome.
Old irons.
Yeah, this is one of my. Yeah.
Bag.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, these are like 1974 Ben Hogan Medallion Apex, right? Look at that thing.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, a sweet spot the size of a dime.
You know what?
If that.
This is very hittable though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we play around here all the time with it, because I like it when I get my hot shot kids that I coach, and they all got, we all have like stuff that goes really far. And it's funny, talk about far, we're bending I bent my Cobra irons this week to kind of work on a little bit. And it's like my 8 iron was like this 5 iron. It was. Yeah. I'm looking at going, and my clubs were like, they're too, they're not going up. So I kind of bent them on. I like what I did, but I love the way I'm sorry. There is nothing like hitting an old forged club.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're an avid golfer, right, and you're looking for something to keep your game sharp, always try to go find a set of these. Not this one, any old set from the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, that is in good shape, and practice with them. Because if you can learn to hit this on the sweet spot, you can hit anything. Yeah. But unfortunately, this 7 probably goes about 130 for me, or 125, which kind of hurts your feelings a little bit, right? But it's in the equipment. Like, sometimes I forget. Like, I pretty much grew up playing on something similar, and then when I became a pro, we used to have Titleist blades, tour models, skinny like that. And we hit them great, though. I mean,
I'd love to see the tour do a tournament like that,
like an old school
throwback tournament. Everybody wears +4s, and they play.
Well, not everybody wore +4s, but
they play a set of
like old clubs,
clubs from the '60s or '70s.
I've watched something. I don't think it was a tour. I think it might have been Live, right, where they had this thing where the pros would come around and they had a bag full of clubs from like the '70s and '80s, like persimmons and old medals. Yeah, they were having fun with it, and so this is tour players, right? And they would smash one, and it's like how would that go? 234, 241. One guy hit at 255, and they would say, when Jack Nicklaus played, he used to hit these 290, 280 with Bellata.
With a Bellata,
and you're hitting new balls. Yeah. So how fast was really Nicklaus?
Was Jack really?
Yeah, how fast was Sam, or how fast were these guys? Because you go watch Wonderful World of Golf and like, oh, there's Sam, and it's the hole's 323 yards. People are like, 323, I'd drive it, right? Because young guys like driving, and Sam was like, boom, Sam's hit a great one. He's hit it down there about 245 yards. What a solid tee shot! And everybody's goes, it's like my hybrid, my 4-iron. Right, and Sam's got 137 into a little breeze. Looks like he's going to hit a little 7-iron in here, and everybody's like 7-iron. But you guys don't understand. Like I'm telling you, that 240 into the wind with a
different world.
Oh, it's really cool. But anyway, I'm excited about coming up with our Masters things coming. We're going to cover a little bit next week, see what happens. Going to talk a little bit more about what's going on here. Make sure to check out shootparnow.com. That's the learning system. That's what I coach. There's a membership you can join. We do online lessons. Follow me on Instagram, Arlen Bento Jr. James at Stammer Golf. Hope you liked the show this week. Thanks for tuning in.
Let us know if there's something you want us to talk about.
Yeah,
or look into.
Please do.
About.
Put a comment in there. We even can take a phone call. Yeah. We can even start like talking about if you're out there watching and you want to promote a product, or you're in the golf industry, put something in the comments and we'll reach out to you, okay? Perfect. So thanks for watching.
Good night, everybody.